Have you ever thought about what it would be like if you had a rich uncle? One that would just pop in and be like, hey, here's $10,000 so that way you could start your own business. Now, what if you were that rich family member? What could life be like then? Hey everyone, my name is Robert and this is Live by the Fire. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where I teach you how you could reach financial independence at an early age. If you're new here, be sure to click the subscribe button. It'll change your life forever. The problem is, people don't think about generational wealth when they're going by their day-to-day life. You may not know what generational wealth is. Just to clarify, generational wealth is when you build wealth in your lifetime that will be left to your future generations. And it'll be there for generations to come. Your children, your children's children, and your children's children's children. And it just keeps going and going and going. That's actually how most of the wealthiest families in the whole world build their wealth. So imagine your family, before you were born, bought a house. They bought a house that now is worth over $200,000. In the future, by the time you inherit that home could be worth well over $400,000 just because of appreciation. So you have almost $500,000 that you inherited. And all they did was just buy one house that they lived in their whole lifetime. So now you could have the proper mentality of creating generational wealth, purposeful generational wealth, whether that's through the stock market, real estate, building businesses, whatever the case is, it'll just continue to snowball from there. Let me give you a more realistic scenario of generational wealth. So let's say you are 30 years old. Now you're finally in a position in your life to start saving or investing a little extra money that you will never see or use. You invest money already, but this is money that you'll be able to enjoy as you get older to reach financial independence, to take care of yourself and your immediate family. But now you're 30 and you could also put in some additional money that is going to your future generations and you'll never touch. Let's say that number is $150 a month. It's not that much money. You start investing $150 a month and you do that for the next 50 years of your life. So you're 30 now, you'll do it for 50, so that's all the way up until you're 80 years old. Let's say you just stop investing at 80 because you're done, that's it, you're just out of it, you don't want to do it anymore. How much was that $150 monthly investment for those 50 years going to turn into if you invested into the stock market, earning an average of 7% return on your investment adjusted for inflation? That number turns into over $750,000. $750,000, and that is going to your next generation. So directly, that is your children. So your children are going to have $750,000, which is money that you never had to start off with. So now you have the $750,000 in your mind. That is what your children have to use. Let's say they take half of that money and they use it for their own investments and their own financial independence for their own family. And they take the other half of the $750 and they use it for their following generation. So that's $375,000 that they'll go ahead and invest in that same investment vehicle. So if they do that for another 50 years, that $375,000 turns into over $11 million. $375,000 turned into $11 million. And that's just in generation number 2. Your grandchildren now have $11 million. Let's say they do the same thing as before, and they take half of the $11 million, which is $5.5 million, and they use that for their own investments and their own financial independence and their own family. And the other $5.5 million they use for future generational growth. Let's say they put it in for the same amount, the 50 years, growing 7% yearly, adjusted for inflation. Now this is a big one, so I'm going to have to check it out. You could take that $5.5 million and turn it into over $160 million. So just remember, just try to wrap your head around this. This started as a $150 monthly investment by you and your direct family. And it kept snowballing and snowballing. And by the end of the 3rd generation, you're able to convert that money into over $160 million. And that is all adjusted for inflation. So picture yourselves right now, your family having $160 million of net worth. Keep in mind, those numbers do not include the income you've earned from your jobs or the appreciation you've earned in your homes. It doesn't include any of that, even your businesses that you're able to thrive in. It only includes the money that you all set aside for generational growth. By that, what I mean is the homes you were able to purchase throughout your lifetime. Your children inherited those. The homes and the businesses that your children were able to create, they pass it down to their children. And it just kept snowballing. So that's all on top of that $160 million that your great-grandchildren will end up inheriting. Okay, so now you've decided you want to build some generational wealth. And it sounds easy. Now, it's definitely not easy, but it is possible. I want to make sure that you understand how important it is to plan and to prepare your family for generational wealth. Here's why. 70% of families lose their wealth in the second generation, and 90% of families lose their wealth on the third generation. Now, why is that? The main leading factor to this is mindset, or more it's appreciation for the wealth. So imagine you are building your wealth. You're building the wealth for your future generations. So you have respect for money, and you know how hard it is to build money. But now you've lived your whole life and you've built all of this capital for your children. Now your children have less value for money. They don't know how much you struggled to build that capital. So what happens once they are able to finally build some capital? By the time it hits the third generation, they definitely don't understand what the power of that is. Imagine the third generation has $11 million that they inherited. They don't understand how hard it was to accumulate $10,000 for you in the beginning, or how hard it was to accumulate $100,000. That is extremely hard to accumulate because now they have $11 million. Not only does it take respect for money, but it also takes discipline. It's not easy to build a future involving money. It's not simple. You want to spend money. Imagine you have $11 million of net worth. You could sell all your assets and you could go and buy Bugattis and Bentleys and Rolex watches and whatever you want because you have all this money. It's so easy to deplete your funds and your wealth. I can't stress this enough. Building generational wealth is very important for you to do. But what's also extremely important in a second to building generational wealth is to teach your family about money and to teach your family about the importance and the discipline it takes to building wealth. Help yourself and help your future generations become part of the 10% of families that succeed at building generational wealth even past the third generation. All right, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below with what steps you are going to take right now to setting your future generations up for financial success. Be sure to check out my last video on lifestyle inflation so that way you can learn how to keep your expenses low and use your savings for building generational wealth. I'll see you all next week.